Africa. Africa has, according to the United Nations, 54 countries. This list will include 56 due to unrecognized territories also being in it, West Sahara and Somaliland. Just like I did this for Europe and Asia, in this video I want to take a look at the origin and meaning of each of those countries' capital cities. You have timestamps in the description if you want to skip ahead to any specific one. Algeria's capital is Algiers. The city's name is derived from the French and Catalan word Alger, which in turn comes from the Arabic name Al-Jazair, meaning the islands. The name refers to the 4 former islands which lay off the city's coast before becoming a part of the mainland in 1525. Much further south is Angola's capital of Luanda. The main theory for the origin and meaning of Luanda is that it derives from a native word, Luanda, meaning tax, which reflects a practice in which the shellfish caught there were sent as tribute to the king of Congo. This makes some sense because before the Portuguese arrived, the territory was controlled by the Ndongo kingdom, a tributary of the Congo king. Another one is that the area was known among the native population as Luanda, meaning flatland. Speaking of Portuguese colonialism, Benin's capital is Porto-Novo, which means new port in Portuguese. The city was originally developed as a port for transatlantic trade led by the Portuguese Empire. Botswana's capital city is Gaborone. Gaborone is named after Chief Gaborone of the Tlokwa tribe who once controlled the land nearby. The word apparently means it does not fit badly or it is not unbecoming, but I believe the city was just named after the tribal leader, not what the meaning of the name was. When Europeans arrived, Gaborone ruled the territory, and even though they took control of it, they maintained the name. Moving to Burkina Faso, its capital is Ouagadougou. The name goes back to the 15th century. The area was first ruled by the Ninzi tribe, who called it Kumbitenga, but then another tribe conquered them, the Yonyonse, and renamed the area to Ouagadougou, meaning where people get honor and respect. Modern Ouagadougou is a corruption of Ouagadougou using the French spelling because they later colonized the territory. It's interesting to see that even in countries where the capital city was not named by Europeans, the colonizers' influence is still visible through these small details. Next is Burundi, and its capital is Gitega or Gitega. The Germans founded the town of Gitega in 1912, back when Burundi was part of German East Africa. The capital changed in 2018. It used to be the city of Bujumbura, even though Gitega was the historical and colonial capital. I searched a lot about this and could not find the origin or meaning of either of these two cities' names. If you know, leave a comment below telling me. Continuing to Cameroon, the capital city there is called Yaounde. The city was founded in 1889 with the arrival of the Germans, who established a colony. Initially, they called it Sono after a local Ewondo chief, a Sono Ella, with whom they had good relations. Eventually, they heard locals refer to the region as Ya Ewondo, meaning the place where the Ewondos reside, and so they began calling it Yaounde, which later evolved to the French Yaounde. The capital city of Cabo Verde, just like the country's name, also originates in their colonizers, the Portuguese, and the capital city is named Praia, which literally means beach in Portuguese. The city was founded by the Portuguese as a commercial port and so was located on the shore. But in 1615, when created, the settlement was originally called Praia de Santa Maria, St. Mary's Beach, after the Catholic saint. Eventually, it transformed into just Praia. The Central African Republic capital is Bangui. It was established as a French outpost in 1889 and named after its location on the northern bank of the Ubangi River. The Ubangi River itself was named from the Bobangi, a native language's word for rapids located beside the settlement. Again, a native origin, but influenced by colonizers. Traveling north to Chad, the capital city is N'Djamena. The settlement was founded as Fort Lamy by the French, named after Amédée François Lamy, an army officer who had been killed in the Battle of Kousséri a few days before. On April 1973, Chad President Tomba Baye changed its name to N'Djamena, taken from the Arabic name of a nearby village, meaning place of rest. Going over to the islands of the Comoros, Moroni is their capital city. The French called it Moroni too, and originally the name seems to come from the native Ngazidia Comorian Moroni, meaning at the river, likely in reference to a local river. Moving to the two Congos, first the Democratic Republic, where the capital city is Kinshasa. Originally, it was named Leopoldville after King Leopold II of the Belgians, who controlled the region. In 1966, it was renamed Kinshasa after the name of a local village nearby, which had been founded and inhabited by the Teki or Humbo people. It was a fishing village with a similar name, Kinshasa, located at the River Congo before the arrival of the Europeans. Apparently, it came from the native word Nshasa, meaning marsh. The other Congo is the Republic of Congo, and its capital city is Brazzaville. It is named after the Italian-born but later French citizen and explorer Pierre Savorgnan de Brazza. He founded the settlement in 1880 and seemingly named it after himself. He was an Italian count. His surname came from his title over the Adriatic island of Brazza, now Bras in Croatia. Isn't that interesting how a capital of an African country is actually named after a small island in Croatia? Côte d'Ivoire's capital is Yamoussoukro. The territory was ruled by native Queen Yamoussoukro, and at the time it was called Ngokro. The village of Ngokro was renamed Yamoussoukro, the suffix kro meaning town in the native language of Baoul, so essentially the town of Queen Yamoussoukro. Djibouti's capital shares the name of the country, Djibouti. The etymology is disputed. One theory says it comes from the Afar word Gabuti, meaning plate, after the geography of the region, connected to the second theory that it comes from Gaboud, meaning upland or plateau, and it could also mean land of Teuti, after the Egyptian moon god. Further north is Egypt with its capital of Cairo. Egyptians often refer to Cairo as Masr, the Egyptian Arabic name for Egypt itself, emphasizing the city's importance for the country. Its official name is Al-Qaira and means the vanquisher or the conqueror, supposedly due to the fact that the planet Mars, known as the conquering star, was rising at the time when the city was founded, but perhaps also in reference to the arrival of the Fatimid Caliph Al-Mu'izz, who reached Cairo in 973. Equatorial Guinea's capital is Malabo. In 1472, the Portuguese found this island and established a settlement there. Eventually, the British took over and founded the capital of Port Clarence on the ruins of that Portuguese settlement. Then the Spanish took over and renamed it Santa Isabel after their queen Isabella II. Its present name was given to the town in 1973 as a part of the campaign to replace European names with African ones, honoring Malabo Lopelo Melaka, the last native king. Back east is Eritrea and its capital is Asmara. From Arbate Asmara, the name given to a village on today's side of Asmara. The name means the women have united the four villages and relates to a local story in which women forced the men of four villages to consolidate into a single settlement. Nearby is Ethiopia with Addis Ababa. It's always had the same name since its founding by Empress Taitu in 1886. It means new flower in the African language of Amharic, the official language of Ethiopia. Gabon's capital is Libreville. It means Freetown in French and was named after a group of prisoners escaped and established this settlement finally in freedom. Back west, the Gambia's capital is Banjul. Banjul takes its name from the expression Bang Julu, which means rope fiber in the native Mandinka language. These people used to gather these fiber materials in the region. Ghana's capital is Accra. This one is very odd. Apparently the word is derived from the Akan word Nkran, meaning ants, a reference to the numerous ant hills seen in the countryside around Accra. In the local Ga language, the name is Ga or Gaga, having the same meaning. Guinea's capital is Conakry. Founded by the French in 1884, it derived its name from a local village inhabited by the native Susu people, but I couldn't find the origin or meaning of this native name. Another Guinea is Guinea-Bissau, and its capital is precisely Bissau. The term Bissau comes from the native name Ichasu, which means brave as the jaguar, possibly in reference to the fact local warriors appeared as jaguars when going into battle. Kenya's capital is Nairobi. A simple meaning, the name comes from the Maasai phrase Nkari Nairobi, which translates to place of cool waters, a reference to the Nairobi River which flows through the city. Going all the way south, Lesotho's capital is Maseru. The name of the city is a native Sesotho word meaning red sandstones, likely referring to the local terrain. Liberia's capital is Monrovia, named in honor of US President James Monroe, a prominent supporter of the colonization of Liberia and the American Colonization Society, which established the nation of Liberia. Along with Washington, D.C., it's one of two capitals in the world to be named after a US president. Northeast is Libya, with its capital of Tripoli. Tripoli is a Greek name which means the three cities, in reference to the Libyan province of Tripolitane, encompassing the three cities of Oea, which is Tripoli today, Leptis Magna, and Sabratha. In the Arab world, Tripoli is also known as Tripoli of the West to distinguish it from its sister city in Lebanon. Madagascar's capital is Antananarivo, which means the city of thousand, Tanan meaning city and Arivo meaning thousand. Some think the thousand is in reference to the thousand hills around the city or thousand soldiers. Back to the mainland, Malawi's capital city is Lilongwe, named after the river with the same name, chosen by the local native people, the etymology of which is unknown. Mali's capital is Bamako, which comes from the native Bambara word meaning crocodile river. Mauritania's capital is Nouakchott. It comes from the Berber version Nawaksut, meaning place of the winds. Back to an island, Mauritius, with Port Louis as its capital, named in honor of King Louis XV during this period of French colonization. Morocco's capital today is Rabat, from the Arabic word Ribat, meaning the Ribat, an Islamic base or fortification. The old capital of Marrakesh seems to have the same etymology as the country, from the Berber words Mur Akush, meaning land of God. Mozambique's capital is Maputo, originally named Lourenço Marques when it was a Portuguese colony after a Portuguese explorer. Maputo seems to come from the Maputo River, also known as Uzutu, from the Sutu people who lived nearby. Southwest is Namibia, whose capital is Windhoek, which most people believed is derived from the Afrikaans word Wind-oek, meaning wind corner. Niger's capital is Niamey. I couldn't find any information about the origin. Let me know in the comments if you can. Just next to it is Nigeria with its capital of Abuja. From the Hausa languages names Abubakar Ya, apparently the name of a prominent local man. Abubakar is just an Islamic name, while Ya means red in the native language. So essentially the red Abubakar. Rwanda's capital is Kigali, from the local language meaning wide or broad. This was originally applied to Mount Kigali, most likely because the mountain itself was broad and wide, with the city later being named after it. Western Sahara, or the Sahrawi Republic, isn't recognized as its own country by the UN, but their self-proclaimed capital is Layun. El Layun is the Spanish transliteration of one of the possible Arabic names for the city, which means the springs, in reference to the oases that allow the city to have a water supply. São Tomé e Príncipe's capital is precisely São Tomé, also named by the Portuguese colonists after St. Thomas. Senegal's capital is Dakar, famously known for the rally races. The city's name comes from Dakar, a Wolof name for the tamarind tree. Seychelles' capital of Victoria is, as many others across the world, named after Queen Victoria of Great Britain. In Sierra Leone, the capital is Freetown, being settled by free men who were formerly slaves. While in Somalia, the capital is Mogadishu. The origin of the name has a lot of theories, but it's most likely to derive from the Somali words Muk and Dishu, which literally mean sight killer, possibly referring to the city's blinding beauty. Somaliland isn't recognized by the UN either, but its capital city is Hargeisa, derived from Argajes, which means place to sell hides and skins in Somali, likely a reference to the early commerce that took place in the city. South Africa has 3 capitals, Pretoria, Bloemfontein, and Cape Town. Cape Town is named after the Cape of Good Hope, crossing from the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean. Bloemfontein is an Afrikaans term meaning fountain of flowers, while Pretoria is named after the Voortrekker leader Andries Pretorius. Going back north, we have South Sudan, and its capital city is Juba. The city of Juba is very old and is named after a village with the same name in the same area. Its etymology is apparently unknown, but it in turn serves as the origin for the Juba Arabic language. North is Sudan itself, with its capital of Khartoum. The origin of it is also uncertain. One theory argues that it is derived from the Arabic kurtum, meaning trunk or hose, likely referring to the narrow strip of land extending between the Blue and White Nile rivers. Eswatini also has 2 capitals, Lobamba and Mban. Mban derives its name from a chief, Mbane Kunen, who lived in the area when British settlers arrived, while Lobamba may mean site of a royal palace. But I can't be sure of this one, even though it does make sense because it is the royal capital of the country. Tanzania's capital city was Dar es Salaam, commonly translated from Arabic as abode of peace, from Dar, house, and es Salam, of peace. But recently it changed to Dodoma, which means it has sunk, in Gogo, after a local legend about an elephant who drank a lot of water and sank, I think. Togo's capital is Lomé, whose etymology I couldn't find either. Many of these are so ancient that records just don't seem to exist. In 1874, Lomé was founded by African, British, and German traders. The original Africans were the Ewe people, perhaps the name comes from their language. And Tunisia's capital is the very similar Tunis. Tunis is the transcription of the Arabic name, which can be pronounced as Tunus. Different explanations exist for the origins of the name Tunis. Some scholars relate it to the Phoenician goddess Tanith. Another possibility is that it was derived from a Berber word meaning to pass the night, perhaps in reference to it being the last stop before Carthage. In Uganda, the capital is Kampala, originally the name of a nearby hill then used for the city, apparently meaning the hill of the Impala, as there were many Impalas on it. while in Zambia, the capital is Lusaka, named after Chief Lusaka, the leader of a nearby Lenye native village. And finally, Zimbabwe's capital city is Harare. Its origin is from the Shona's language word arare, supposedly from arari, meaning it doesn't sleep, in reference to a local waterfall. However, another theory is that the name is derived from the local chief Nearawe, who, with his people, occupied the territory before British arrival. So that is the origin, history, and meaning of all the capital cities of African countries. I think it's really interesting to get to know the etymology of words, especially place names, because they really do allow us to learn about the history of the location and its people. For example, it's interesting to see the ones that still have a colonial name for their capital city, illustrating the history of those countries being colonized by Europe. Did I get any of these wrong, or do you have any additional information about any of them, especially the 3 or 4 that I couldn't find information about? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you want, and I will see you next time for more general knowledge.